Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the opening years of World War I, beginning in 1939 and looking at the first half of 1941. Here are your goals. So the war begins in 1939, but before the war begins, Germany makes some last-minute preparations. One of these is the Pact of Steel, which is a military alliance between Germany and Italy, where these two fascist nations basically just agree to support one another in the war to come. On top of this, in a completely unexpected move, Germany is able to sign a non-aggression pact with the USSR. And basically, this just means that they're not allied, but they agree not to fight each other. And basically, nobody expected this because the Soviet Union hates and is clearly worried about military aggression from Germany. And one of the main things that the Nazis stand for is anti-communism and anti-Eastern Europeans. So the fact that Hitler was willing to sign an agreement with Stalin was very surprising. And it was also very bad news for the other powers, because this meant that the Soviet Union, which was a big industrial and military power, could not be counted on to counteract German expansion. So this is a big deal, the non-aggression pact. On top of this, Germany agrees to split the minor power of Poland. Germany basically says, hey, we're gonna invade into Poland. If you promise to leave us alone, we will let you invade the eastern part of Poland. We can split it. Stalin accepts this deal, partially because he feels like he is not ready yet to go to war with Germany, so he buys himself some time. When this happens, France and Britain make a public promise that they say that they will protect Poland, and that if Germany invades Poland, that they will go to war to help Poland. In September 1939, Germany, unafraid of France's and Britain's promise, probably because France and Britain just gave up Czechoslovakia without a fight, Germany invades Poland. The Soviet Union invades as well. And basically, within 3 weeks, they're able to totally conquer Poland and split it between themselves. When Germany invades Poland, France and Britain declare war, but they are not able to get there fast enough. By the time they get there, Germany has already finished conquering Poland. One of the reasons that Germany was able to conquer Poland so quickly and would go on to enjoy a lot of further military success in the opening parts of the war was because of a new military tactic known as the Blitzkrieg. And Blitzkrieg literally means in German lightning war or lightning warfare. And what the Blitzkrieg involved was sort of concentrating a lot of your army into one or several large attacks. And these attacks were led by huge concentrations of tanks. And these tanks would basically smash through the enemy lines, and right behind these tanks would come motorized troops. That is basically normal soldiers, but they would be transported on motor vehicles so they could keep up with the tanks as they advanced quickly through enemy lines. And on top of this, this formation of tanks and troops would be supported by the Air Force. Specifically dive bombers, which were planes that were designed to swoop down and destroy enemy military units in the field. And this tactic proved to be incredibly successful during the opening phases of the war. And basically what it would do is it would smash right through the enemy lines, which would be spread kind of thin, whereas the Blitzkrieg attack would be like an arrow just shooting right through that thin line. And this allowed Nazi forces to break through the lines and then to circle back around the enemy and basically to surround them and to destroy them completely. And this was an extremely effective tactic, and it helped the Nazis to quickly destroy Poland before Britain or France could get get any backup there, and it also would help Germany in its upcoming invasion of France, which we're going to look at now. So 1940 was a good year for Germany in terms of military success. During the opening parts of 1940, after the fall of Poland, there's really not very much action. Both sides basically just prepare for the war to come. France and Britain both face sort of morale crises. People are worried that nobody can stop Nazi Germany. The attacks begin in April 1940 when Germany advances to occupy Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and the Netherlands, and basically they wipe aside all resistance there. And then in May 1940, Germany invades France. And using their Blitzkrieg tactic that worked so well in Poland, they're able to smash through the French lines. The French have tanks, but their tanks are kind of spread out all over the place, whereas the Germans concentrate their tanks into specific powerful attacks and basically smash through French defenses. A large portion of French and British forces are trapped up against the sea and are forced to evacuate to Great Britain. About 300,000 French and British troops evacuate in this way. After that, German forces are basically unopposed in the rest of France, and France is forced to surrender only 3 weeks after the beginning of the German attack. So France didn't really hold out very much longer than Poland did. Northern France is occupied by Germany and basically becomes part of Germany. Southern France is transformed into a fascist satellite state known as Vichy France. And so this is seen as a huge victory for Germany. Hitler and the army were able to capture France in 3 weeks, whereas Germany in the First World War had been unable to capture France in 4 years of fighting. Here's a picture of what Europe looked like in 1940. So the light orangey colors, that is Greater Germany, and all the territories directly controlled by it. So it includes Norway and Denmark up north, Poland to the east, Belgium, Netherlands, and France to the west. And then you see those darker orange colors, Vichy France, Italy, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania. And then parts of Africa, parts of North Africa, are also controlled by German allies. So the larger part of continental Europe is now controlled by Germany or German allies. The only people who are still at war with Germany in 1940 is Great Britain. And we're going to turn to Great Britain now. So things are not looking good for Britain in 1940. Basically, they are alone against Germany and Italy and most of the rest of continental Europe. But Britain refuses to back down. The German Air Force, which is known as the Luftwaffe, begins attacking British airfields and airplanes in the fall of 1940, basically trying to destroy the British Air Force so that way Germany can launch an invasion of Great Britain. But really for not any very good reason, the German Air Force eventually shifts its focus from attacking the German Air Force or the British Air Force to attacking major British cities. And this is seen by many military strategists as a big mistake. If Germany had just continued bombing the British Air Force and destroying airports and airplanes, they would have been able to invade Britain and possibly knock Britain out of the war. Instead, they shift to bombing the cities, which kills a lot of people, but doesn't directly diminish the Britain's ability to resist militarily. During this time, the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill emerges as a great and charismatic leader, and he inspires the British to continue resisting even though the odds seem impossibly stacked against him. He gives a great speech, which we'll probably listen to tomorrow in class, where he announces that Britain's resistance against the Nazis it will be remembered for the rest of history as Britain's finest hour. And I don't know, I think it really might be one of Britain's finest hours. In spite of the overwhelming odds, the British Royal Air Force is able to resist the German Air Force and to inflict heavy losses on them. Eventually, the losses are so heavy that Germany is forced to call off its attack against Britain and to call off its invasion plan. So Britain holds for now and is able to begin bringing in troops and supplies from its colonies and to approach the United States for assistance. And one last thing we want to look at during the early phases of the war is the Axis advance into Africa and Eastern Europe. In 1941, Germany invades and conquers Yugoslavia and Greece. And in Africa, Italian and later German forces invade large parts of British Egypt. And though they never fully subdue this area, they occupy large parts of it for a little while. So here is a map of Europe at the beginning of 1941, and basically all of the blue area is controlled by Germany or German allies. The only people who are officially at war with Germany at this point is Great Britain. The Soviet Union and Germany are still basically non-aggressive. They've agreed not to fight each other. But at this point, Germany doesn't really know what it's going to do about Great Britain, and Great Britain is refusing to surrender. And so at this point, Germany is faced with a choice of either renewing attacks against Great Britain or maybe focusing its attacks on the Mediterranean and maybe trying to conquer the Suez Canal and to starve Britain out that way. Or, as you'll see in the next video, to invade the Soviet Union, which is what they ultimately decide to do and which turns out to be a terrible, terrible choice. We'll look at this more next time. Thanks for paying attention, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Here are your goals again.